Iron Monkey presents a special episode of the Lazaretto Letters, the reading of a found collection of mysterious, unmailed handwritten letters from 1922. Episode 12, Hidden by Time, Part 1. The trunk was old, yet barely showed the passage of time. I was struck by its craftsmanship. Unlike the typical all-black steamer trunks I'd seen, this one featured wooden strips riveted onto the main body, secured with ornate metal brackets. 2 leather straps encircled it, fastened with what looked like belt buckles. Though weathered and dry-rotted, the straps remained intact. The latches were closed, but the central lock sat open. It seemed almost too well-preserved for its age. The sight of it stirred something in me. A memory, perhaps, or a feeling I couldn't quite place. I couldn't understand how I had forgotten it had been in my parents' possession all these years. Then it became obvious. It had sat beneath the same afghan at the foot of their bed for decades, hidden in plain sight. When my mother cracked the lid, I was flooded with a scent that smelled like nostalgia. A very distinct smell, one that unlocked a long-forgotten time in my life. The scent wasn't unpleasant, far from it. Aged cedar, softened by old blankets, like the pages of a well-loved book. It transported me instantly. The novelist Mary Stuart once wrote, "The sense of smell is the hair trigger of memory." She was right. Sight fades, sound distorts, but scent preserves things intact. Seeing a childhood friend can trick your memory, as their present appearance no longer matches the image you once held. The memories surface, but they're blurred, reshaped by your mind to fit the adult standing before you. An old song can take you back, but your mind may long for the warmth of the unique hisses and pops, the imperfections of the vinyl you played endlessly in your youth. A familiar scent does not. It delivers the moment whole. This was no different. Part 2. The scent brought me back to 1976, when my Aunt Ty passed away, and my family made the trip to her upstate New York home to sift through her possessions. Mundane objects like drink coasters, ashtrays, artificial flowers filled the main rooms, but they didn't interest me whatsoever. It wasn't until I began exploring her closets and drawers that I felt the excitement of uncovering something hidden, something forgotten. My parents were focused on practical things. We didn't have much in those days, so they treated this like a Goodwill shopping spree, loading up items of little interest to me. Lamps, chairs, plates, towels, and of course the trunk. The same trunk I had forgotten about all these years. Maybe I'd forgotten because its contents were so mundane. Blankets and such with the scent of an old woman's home. But I wasn't looking for practicality. Far from it. I was obsessed with finding treasure. I wandered through Aunt Ty's home, searching, until I stumbled upon something utterly disturbing and horrific. My parents were dumping drawers of what I considered priceless relics into plastic garbage bags. I didn't have much of a say back then, but I immediately intervened and somehow convinced them to hand over the bags. I swiftly dumped them onto the floor so I could sift through like an archaeologist. Needless to say, my slower pace didn't thrill my parents, but I was determined to find something special. A fun fact about 12-year-olds is that they hear everything they're not supposed to. It's as if their minds filter out everyday requests while laser-focusing on hushed conversations. As I was sorting through the bag's contents, I overheard my parents talking with someone I didn't know who had dropped by unexpectedly. At first, it was nothing out of the ordinary, but then the tone shifted. Their voices became more serious, and I could feel their gaze drift toward me. Although I couldn't catch the full conversation, a few unsettling words reached my ears. Rigged, shotgun, blood, and brain matter. The tension in the air thickened. My mother quickly interjected, cutting the conversation short with an uneasy glance in my direction. They had always told me Aunt Ty died of a heart attack, so who were they talking about? The truth is, I never did find out. They never spoke of it again, and I never asked. After going through the bag, I ventured off on my own, exploring closets, desks, and shoeboxes stashed under beds. My attention was drawn to one particular bedroom closet. A flick of the light switch revealed a strange design. The left wall angled upward at 45 degrees, forming a platform near the high ceiling. It looked like the perfect hiding spot for a skinny kid like myself, so I scrambled up and squeezed into the tiny space. It was a tight spot, and I had to crouch, but I managed. I thought about staying up there all day, convinced no one would discover me. Funny how that seemed to be a great achievement at the time. In reality, the space's temperature was roughly 20 degrees warmer, so my time up there was limited. Sitting in a confined space with a bright 100-watt light bulb loses its charm after a while, so I went back to my archaeological endeavor. Several items were stacked on my perch, including blankets and boxes. I tossed the blankets aside and got to work on the boxes. Most were filled with women's clothes, with an old lady aroma. But then I came across a simple but well-made wooden box. I cracked open the box and was surprised and delighted to encounter what appeared to be a furry toy. After a brief and close inspection, it was revealed to be an actual fox, complete with soft fur, glass eyes, and real teeth. I was both mesmerized and bewildered. It was so real, but flat and light. I became immediately obsessed with it. I quickly discovered that its mouth could be held open and shut with a clamp. My mind immediately turned to the possibility of using it as a prank to terrify my friends back home. My father explained it was simply a fox stole, worn by women as a fashion accessory. I thought it would be better suited to scaring my friends, but unfortunately, I lost that battle. Now, a bit excited, I returned to my ledge and turned my attention to a larger box I spotted behind a stack of blankets. It was cylindrical, off-white with light blue stripes, and had a zipper running around the middle. The zipper was a bit rusty, and I had to work hard to get it open. As I unzipped it, a strange, unfamiliar smell seeped through the widening crack. I pulled the lid back, and what I saw inside made my stomach twist into a knot. It had pale skin, tangled hair, and deep crimson lips. I froze, staring at it, my mind refusing to believe what I was seeing. The face was lifeless, the eyes were wide, unblinking, soulless, and staring straight through me. The twisted hair draped over part of the forehead, but it didn't hide the horror of the thing in front of me. My heart pounded in my chest as I recoiled and lost all composure. My throat tightened, and I felt a wave of nausea rise as I struggled to tear my gaze away from the head. In an instant of sheer panic, I thrust the thing away, scrambling down the angled surface while emitting incoherent grunts and stifled screams. It took mere moments to reach my parents. They regarded me with a mix of confusion and concern. Suddenly, like a flash, it dawned on me that it wasn't human at all. What I encountered was a styrofoam mannequin head, grotesquely painted with a wig placed upon it. My aunt, in her misguided attempt at artistry, had turned it into something nightmarish. The pale styrofoam and exaggerated makeup had tricked me into thinking I had witnessed something out of a horror movie. Embarrassment flooded my cheeks as I realized my error. Checking my reflection wasn't necessary. I could feel the heat of humiliation radiating from my face, and I was certain I passed the limit for blushing. A nervous chuckle escaped my lips as I mumbled, "Never mind," before retreating, my cheeks aflame with shame. After the adrenaline ebbed and my complexion returned to normal, I recounted the incident, and we shared a good laugh over my overreaction. In hindsight, I can laugh about it, but at that moment, it was the most terrifying experience of my young life. Part 3. Taking some time to allow my heart rate to return back to normal, I resumed my mission. I made my way back to the closet and climbed up to the landing, where the hatbox was located. Despite the lingering unease, I pressed on. Next to the hatbox, there was a cardboard box filled with various items. I decided to take it down and sort through its contents. Inside, I found a couple of old photo albums, a scrapbook, and some birthday cards that were, let's just say, extraordinarily politically incorrect. What really caught my eye was an old cigar box filled with my uncle's military memorabilia. According to my father, my late uncle was a good man. He was well liked and spent most of his life doing manual labor, construction, truck driving, maintenance at the quarantine hospital. In 1943, at the age of 37, he joined the military. After basic training, he was sent overseas. In January of 1944, he was captured by German forces near Cassino and taken to a prison camp in Hammerstein, known as Stalag 2B. He remained there until Allied troops liberated the camp in the spring of 1945. When he returned home, he weighed less than 100 pounds, a shell of a man. He never fully recovered. Health problems followed him for the rest of his life. Eventually, he found work as a custodian at the local Elks Club. He died at 56. I knew none of this at the time. As I opened the cigar box, I was met with a collection of items that told a story of my uncle's past. Among them were military medals, a rabbit's foot, discharge papers, and a Bible with a thick brass cover. My father explained that soldiers carried Bibles like this in their chest pockets for protection. The idea of spiritual and physical protection wasn't lost on me, even at that age. The most striking item, however, was a brass cigarette holder with a raised eagle and Nazi insignia. Growing up in a household dominated by war films and westerns, I was well aware of the profound symbolism attached to the swastika. I imagined my uncle standing victorious over a defeated Nazi, lighting a cigarette from the holder, an American flag ascending in the background. To be honest, I had no idea how my uncle came to possess it. Perhaps he took it as a souvenir on the day he was liberated from the prison camp. Regardless, it remains an interesting historical artifact. Not the sort of item one would display on their mantle, but it carries significance nonetheless. All these discoveries now rest within my childhood safe, discreetly stored away in the attic. I rarely think of my uncle. Until recently. Part 4. Years passed. My parents moved to Florida to enjoy their retirement, and as they got older, they began downsizing their possessions. During my last visit, which lasted about a week, I helped them with a few things around the house, including taking some larger items to a local charity. Among them was the steamer trunk, the same one from my aunt's house taken decades earlier. It had sat at the foot of their bed, hidden beneath an old Afghan. When I pulled the cover away, it was like watching a magician sweep aside his cape, making something appear from thin air. I'd completely forgotten about it, and now there it was, staring back at me, as if it had been waiting all this time. After my initial surprise at its actual existence, I knew I wanted to bring it home with me. My mother and I emptied its contents, blankets, sheets, comforters, nothing interesting, just like before. I wanted to determine its value, so I inspected the trunk further, looking for markings or a manufacturer's stamp. Nothing on the interior provided any clues, so I flipped it over to check the underside. As I turned the trunk over, a loud crack startled us, and something hit the floor. I quickly flipped it back over, and my eyes popped with astonishment. Dozens, maybe hundreds of handwritten letters spilled out from a false bottom inside the trunk. It was like hitting a slot machine jackpot, and endless coins were pouring from its depths. They'd been hidden for decades. I was speechless. How had no one noticed them before? It obviously remained upright all these years. Stumbling upon a cache of antique letters was exciting enough, But what I uncovered next took things to an entirely new level. The letters were in pristine condition, written by numerous people, and mostly sealed, stamped, but unpostmarked. Upon closer inspection, I discovered that they dated back to 1922 and seemed to have been written within a 2-week period. This raised a number of intriguing questions. Why were they never sent? Why were they hidden inside this trunk? How did they end up in the possession of my aunt and uncle? Could this be the result of a lazy mail carrier, or was something more sinister at play? After inspecting a few of the letters, it became clear that they originated from the quarantine hospital where my uncle had worked, the Lazaretto. Individually, the letters offered no clear answers, but together, they suggested something deliberate, something interrupted. These letters were not misplaced. They were withheld. Someone went to great lengths to ensure they were never delivered. And now, more than a century later, they have resurfaced, hidden by time, but not erased. My goal became clear: to read them and to find out why. This concludes the bonus episode and Season 1 of the Lazaretto Letters, a found collection of unmailed handwritten letters from 1922. Some stories refuse to remain buried. When we return for Season 2, more secrets will come to light. The Lazaretto Letters is produced and distributed by Iron Monkey. To share your reflections, offer your support, or learn more, visit enterthemonkey.com. Thank you for listening.